Hi guys, and welcome back to Tesla Electron. Keith here. So I tried to do a live stream half an hour ago or so, but unfortunately I had one of the settings wrong and all the video went left. So I'm going to try it again and see if it works any better the second time. It's not too bad because I know that yeah, it should be fine. So I just want to talk to you about my service repair experience with Tesla. As you know, this will now be the fifth week that my vehicle has been in for service. Now, in Australia, we've had quite a lot of logistical issues concerning, the 19 thing, and so that's really caused some issues with us getting parts in all sorts of areas, not just automotive, but across the board. So I understand that it took a while to get the parts. So yesterday I noticed that they had opened the bonnet, they had opened the boot, and they were charging the vehicle. So I thought, aha, they must have got the parts and they're now working on them. So that was really good. That was very exciting. Late in the afternoon, one of the young ladies called me to tell me that the car was done. And of course I went, woohoo! I've got getting my car back. So I really do thank Tesla for the loan vehicle. I couldn't have done it without the loan vehicle. It would have been in deep doo-doo, really, to be honest, because my wife travels for a living. She needs a vehicle. We would have had no vehicle. It would have been nigh impossible to have gone 5 weeks without a vehicle living here in Australia on the central coast of New South Wales. We do a lot of Ks. I've had the car for 4 months and I've done 8,900 kilometres, nearly 9,000 kilometres we've done already in the vehicle. And we do a fair bit of driving around as well, but anyway, that's what it is. So I thought it would be great to show you what they did. So this is from Tesla after they finished the repair. This is what it states. Customer states they got a message on screen saying, please wait while system is starting up. Vehicle may not restart. Vehicle needs service. Now, of course, it did also say that there was a BMS error, BMS A035. And so that was a trigger to the battery management system, which is probably what was generating the errors. But it wasn't the actual problem. So the problem itself was in the diagnosis here. Confirmed the customer concern, carried out extensive diagnosis and testing to determine that the cause of low isolation was the rear drive unit. Now, the guy had told me a week or so ago that it was actually the inverter that was causing the problem, and so the rear drive unit. And we'll show you why that's the case in a moment. Carried out replacement of the rear drive unit, including wheel alignment. After replacing the rear drive unit, vehicle was still presenting with low isolation. Carried out further diagnosis on the high voltage battery system and determined a secondary cause of low voltage was present. This was determined to be the heat pump. That's the AC unit. Removed and replaced the heat pump, carried out and configuration update and firmware update, carried out extensive testing to verify repair, verified proper operation. That's great stuff. Look, I work in IT. I understand this thing is a driving computer, basically, at the end of the day. So it was great that they did all those firmware updates. That's something I would do if I was working on a client's computer. One of the first things I go looking for are driver updates, firmware updates, and apply those, any service packs. They're really important. Then also they show each line item you can see what was here. So there was a correction to the batteries. They removed and replaced the battery. Then you can see that second part there, ASYHRN front control chassis. That, from what I can gather, is just a cable. It's a cable that that goes into the battery unit. Then a plug. Then you can see the AC compressor. So they actually replaced with the heat pump. There's also a compressor. It's all in one part basically, and they've replaced that whole piece. And they also replaced, of course, the drive unit, which is down here. So you can see here that that's the drive unit. You can go and check out that part number. And so the drive unit basically contains the drivetrain, the inverter, and the connections to the power. So, and I'll show you that in a video in just a moment. So that's what they replaced. I suspect that would have been a very, very expensive repair. Should have I been out of warranty. So I'm very grateful, I'm very glad that it happened during the warranty period. Now there's 4 years warranty in Australia on the vehicle, and there's 7 years warranty on the battery. It's a bit low for vehicles in Australia. Mostly we get 8 years, up to 8 years, 5 years on a car, and 8 years on accessories and things like that. So I'm not sure about how that worked out, but that's what it is. So I'm still glad that it was under warranty. I just want to show you a little video here as well. This is from, and I'm hoping it'll play this time, from All EV Canada. And this young man on the left here has just removed the drive unit from a Tesla, and he's pulled it all apart. And so I'll leave it for him to explain what all of those parts are. And if we make it full screen, that might make it better.
Move nicely. Maybe explain what all these parts are now.
Cool. So I've arranged it in a way that I should be able to explain a little bit how it works. So to start over here, we have our high voltage cable that brings high voltage DC current to the inverter, and inside this inverter we have the brawn here, and then the brains over here. So this is basically the controller, and this is what inverts the DC current, which comes in here, goes into a capacitor bank, and then is switched back and forth to create sinusoidal waves that are then passed to the motor. Now we have to cool these triggering MOSFETs, and that's what this manifold does. So we saw earlier the heat sink, and this manifold passes coolant through the heat sink. Now that's sealed, so the circuitry does not get damaged. And like I said, we have it's an AC motor, so we have sinusoidal wave, 3-phase, going to this stator. And what that does is the coils create a magnetic field that reacts with the magnets, these neodymium magnets. Do you have that metal stick?
Right there.
Take a look at it.
Like right from here.
Yeah.
You feel the strength.
So the magnetic field induced by the stator reacts with the magnetic field on the rotor, and that produces a torque. Then we get a torque multiplication. In this case, it's about 9-to-1 multiplication through the gear set. And then we have our axles that go on this side and then one on the other that go out to the wheels and allow us to move forward.
And this kind of differential here, what is that?
Yeah, so actually this is an open differential, so if one of the wheels were to spin, the other one wouldn't quite get the torque it would need, but that's kind of counteracted with the brains in the Tesla control unit. So yeah, pretty standard, not really a high performance differential, but Tesla makes it work with their control electronics. That kind of explains how it all works, but then there's also some thermal control and oiling that happens in this drive unit. That's pretty interesting. So, contrary to popular belief, Dave, we do have a filter. Right. So there's a pretty standard filter, oil filter. what happens here is we have our oil pump, which picks up from the bottom, from the sump of this this drive unit, and it pumps oil, high pressure oil, through this little this port here, which passes into the outside of the filter. It passes through the filter, going to the inside, and then it's pumped through a little tube on the inside.
That's right.
Of the casing.
It looks like just a standard oil filter.
Yeah.
So it probably has a relief valve inside, some sort of valve to prevent it from getting plugged up.
Yep. So that pumps clean oil up to the cooler. So the oil is then immediately cooled after it's pumped. We have a heat exchanger where glycol, what was the
G48.
G48 coolant passes through the heat exchanger. The oil and the coolant are in separate chambers, but they're able to transfer heat between each other. So the coolant is cooling the oil. Once it's cooled, it goes two places. One, it goes to the stator, and the other one, it pumps it through this tube, and it oils the input shaft and secondary shaft bearings. So there's a plate at the bottom here that guides the oil, and then eventually it returns back to the sump through this plastic guard, I guess it would be, kind of oil guide. And there's one more measure. Oh, get too close to the stator. There's one more measure. There's actually a magnet in the bottom that picks up any fine particles that come off with the wear of the bearings.
Almost like a regular transmission.
Yeah, the fill plug would have one, right?
Yeah.
Now there isn't. There's an oil filter, and when you pull the pump, you can drain the oil really easily.
Yeah.
But there is a fairly traditional oil fill plug, and then there's a breather valve on the top. So over here we have that breather valve. So that's kind of how the oil works, and then we have cooling through here and cooling through the inverter.
Okay, thanks for watching.
Well, there you go, guys. So I've just learned something there myself because I didn't watch the video that far through, but that's fantastic. That's All EV Canada. Credit to them for that great video. I really do suggest you go back and watch the whole video. They do the whole teardown of the motor. The young fella there is obviously an apprentice to the older gentleman, and fantastic job by All EV Canada. Thank you so much for that video. And so what's the interesting part about that is that I didn't realize that either, is that makes sense now why we saw on the docket the oil stuff, the oil filter. So the lubricant and the oil filter. So they've got to replace the oil and the lubricant. Now you think that they're things that still have to be done. Like, sure, the oil on them probably doesn't wear as much as like a combustion engine oil motor would, but still, oil does degrade over time and it loses its viscosity, and eventually it does need to be replaced. So that's something that you think that Tesla would call you in for a service on. So even if they only did a service once every 12 months, that would make more sense. Which leads me to the final piece of this puzzle, and that is Tesla now too big to do their own servicing? I personally feel that part of the issue with the servicing is the fact that, and I'm not the only one to complain about this, but one of the issues is that they're selling so many vehicles, and that's awesome. I mean, I'm a shareholder. I'm happy for them to sell as many vehicles as they can sell, and push that transition to sustainable transport, the electrification of transportation, I think is what they say. And I'm really happy for that. But what about at the other end? The customers need support and service. Now, Tesla own all of their support centers. I get it. They can control who they have supporting their vehicles. They can control the parts. They can control all of those sorts of things. But I think that they really need to start outsourcing that side of their business. It seems to make a lot of sense to me, and I don't know about you, but it seems to make a lot of sense to me to outsource the service and repair side of the business, and let somebody else do that. And just make sure that you go and check them every now and again. They've got to be a verified Tesla dealer, sorry, not dealer, but a Tesla service center. And I think that that would solve some of the issues that Tesla's currently having in the States, where they can't sell their vehicles in certain states. If they said, well, we don't have dealers selling the vehicles, but we do have service centers servicing vehicles that employ people. I think that that would go a long way to getting that over the line for Tesla in many of those states. So I don't know. What do you think? Comment below whether you think Tesla should have their own service centers or whether they should outsource those service centers. I like the online purchase model. I like that. It was fantastic. I liked that I could jump online, buy what I wanted to buy, order what I wanted to buy. I didn't have a salesman breathing down my neck. If I wanted to ring one, I could. I liked that too. I rang one of their sales reps, sales and service support guys, and he talked me through a lot of the questions that I had, which I really appreciated. But I did eventually go and do that order online. But on this side, this is the service side. It has taken 5 weeks. I know that was a parts issue, that they were struggling to get the parts. I'm sure it could have been a lot longer. I know that there are people, even some of my neighbours, who have ordered vehicles, electric vehicles from other manufacturers, will be waiting a very long time to get their EV. So I'm very grateful for that. So I'm thankful that they've fixed it. I'll go and pick it up on Friday. I'm too far away from Sydney to just pick up and go. I have to work for a living. So it will be really good to get my car back, to be quite honest. Don't get me wrong, having the loaner vehicle was good. But some of the issues with the loaner vehicle was that I couldn't attach it to my phone because it's not my car. So they gave me a card. So every time I got out of the car, I had to use the card to lock it. And when I came up to the car, I had to unlock it before I could unlock the boot. So if I went shopping, it wasn't unlocking when I went up to the vehicle. I know they're first world problems, but it's such a great feature in the Tesla, that unlock when it senses you coming up, or it locks a vehicle when you're walking away with your phone. I just think that is one of the best things. And on the loaner vehicle, I didn't have that facility, and so I've missed that for 5 weeks. And we only had one card, so that meant that we were sharing the card between my wife and I, going places, and that was also a bit of a challenge. So it will be good to have my vehicle back. I am so glad to get it back. And, I thank Tesla, of course, for the loan vehicle. We couldn't have done it without that. It would have cost us an arm and a leg, because we would have had to hire a vehicle, and our insurance doesn't cover, only covers a small amount. I suspect that the insurance cover is done in such a way that if you break down somewhere and you're away, you can hire a vehicle to get home. I think that's the purpose of it, really, not, I will keep a vehicle until your vehicle's back on the road. So I'm looking forward to Tesla insurance as well. I think that's going to be fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm not sure that when it's going to happen in Australia, or even if it will happen in Australia, but it's just fantastic. So it'll be great to have the vehicle back. Sorry, I'm starting to waffle a bit now. I apologize. But yeah, so I'm very excited to get the vehicle back. Comment down below if you watched the video, and don't forget to share and subscribe. It does help the channel. I've only got a few subscribers, so I am learning how to use YouTube and how to do videos. It does really encourage me when you guys do comment, and I've had a couple of comments, not a huge number, but tell me down below if you've had it, if you've got a Tesla, and have you had to have it serviced, and how was your service experience? I'd really be interested to know. And also, did you get a loaner car when you had that experience as well? That would be helpful to know. And if there are any other videos you'd like me to do or things like that, yeah, put them down below as well. And of course, until next time, I'll keep happy charging. Good